A number of years ago, I had a long car trip with a friend who wasn't supposed to be alive. 10 years earlier, he was given less than 8 years to live. He was diagnosed with a type of cancer that had no known treatment, so he enrolled in a clinical trial. With his consent, they randomly allocated him to a control condition, meaning he was given no medical treatment. They'd just regularly monitor him and see how it all progressed. Well, 10 years later, he was still fighting fit for someone with a terminal disease. I asked him how he was doing it, and he told me it was all about his diet and this book called the China Study. When I got home, I needed to know what was in this book. It presents a series of animal studies that show that dairy consumption promotes cancer in rats. It also presents a huge cross-sectional study with like 1 million participants showing that many chronic health conditions were associated with animal consumption, controlling for a couple of other factors. Well, I took this and run with it. Within 6 months, I'd gone full vegan, cutting out meat, dairy, eggs, and even honey. I'd bought all the books, a lifetime supply of soy milk, and powder that allegedly tasted like egg.
It's common to think that strict dieting can be a quick fix to weight problems. People think that an adequate diet consists of eating only good foods like fruits and avoiding eating any bad foods like chocolate. People often don't know precisely which diet will best help them safely achieve their weight loss goals.
I wasn't one of those polite, each to their own kind of vegans either. I'd gone full sanctimonious, up on a soapbox, meat is murder kind of vegan too. After all, I was weighing myself every day, losing weight and running further and faster than I ever had. Everything was going great guns. About 6 months later though, when I was training for a marathon, I went to the doctor with a bit of knee pain. He asked about my diet and casually suggested I get a few blood tests. But when they came back, he said I was pre-diabetic and anemic. What I'd been doing, it turns out, is I'd been substituting most fats and proteins with sugar and carbs, which wasn't doing good things to my body. It wasn't uncommon for me to come home from a run and hoe down on a whole plate of cupcakes because they were delicious, vegan, and therefore in my head good for me. I might have been warding off cancer in my head, but what I was actually doing was getting on the fast track to diabetes. And I spent more time thinking about food than anything else.
Many people also think that we don't need professional guidance in order to safely achieve a healthy weight. In addition to nutritional deficiencies and unsuccessful weight management, unsupervised and very strict diets are often associated with increased dissatisfaction with body shape and weight, overvaluation of the importance and control of body shape and weight, psychological distress, low self-esteem, low mood, social isolation, and binge eating. Unsupervised and very strict diets are often associated with eating disorder symptoms and psychological distress. A healthy diet consists of the consumption of a variety of foods, including discretionary foods in moderation, as described in the Australian Guide to Health Eating.
I didn't think I needed to talk to a dietitian when I went vegan because I'd read a lot and I'd ordered a few recipe books and followed those. I didn't realize that many of these books were written by TV personalities rather than dietitians. I got sucked away by the emotions I felt for my friend and wasn't reading with a scientifically critical eye. His story sounded persuasive, these rat studies sounded great, but the findings don't often translate into humans. And the cross-sectional correlational research is so confounded that it's hard to make any conclusions. For example, people who floss their teeth tend to live a lot longer than those who don't, but many scientists think that it's because those who floss also look after their diet, exercise regularly, and are from a more privileged socioeconomic environment. These are the factors that cause longevity, not the flossing per se. Now, I'm not saying you can't be vegan and be healthy. In fact, it's harder to rebut the ethical and environmental arguments for reducing animal consumption, but I'm off my soapbox, so I'll leave it to others to make those arguments. Instead, there's 2 main lessons to take away from the mistakes I made. First, animal studies and correlational research, testimonials, and best-selling books are some of the lowest pieces of evidence in the hierarchy of scientific knowledge. Instead, important decisions around your health should be made based on a series of high-quality, randomized controlled trials, hopefully pulled together in a systematic review or a meta-analysis. The second thing I learned is that it's better to consult an expert who already knows these meta-analyses when making dietary changes. That means having the diet supervised by a doctor or an accredited practicing dietitian.
People who attempt to manage their weight with clinically supervised behavioral and/or dietary interventions usually reduce or don't initiate binge eating, improve their self-esteem, reduce depressive symptoms when the symptoms are present, and improve their body image and quality of life.
For my friend, little to my knowledge, he was seeing a dietitian and getting some supervision from a doctor because he was in the control group of that study I was talking about. It might have cost me a few $100s, but making the mistakes I did cost more in doctor's bills and disgusting fake eggs.